Hi, I'm Rick Battershell. I have been getting a lot of phone calls and emails regarding the new property tax legislation in Washington State. And we're preparing this video to give you more information about what the new laws entail and how it affects your organization as a nonprofit. Now, in the state of Washington, basically the rule is that as a nonprofit, you're required to use the property exclusively for nonprofit purposes. Otherwise, you have to pay property tax on that property. And so you're allowed to have other organizations that are nonprofits use it for their activities, for charitable type activities, as long as you don't charge more than your cost of operating. And the property is basically not supposed to be used for business activities. So what's happened is over the last several years, the legislation has been kind of piecemeal. It's taken various nonprofit types of organizations and given them different rules so that we have kind of a patchwork of legislation. Now, effective June 12, 2014, the legislature has passed a law that has kind of leveled the playing field and made a lot of these exemptions the same between nonprofit organizations. Now, the organization can loan the property for up to 50 days for non-exempt purposes, and then you can also, on your property, as an exempt organization, allow businesses to use it or promote business type activities for up to 15 days of a year. So what I'm going to do is I just give you several examples. I think that helps illustrate the law a little bit better so that you can understand what's happening. A typical situation is where you have a concert or a speaker come in, and afterwards that group wants to sell CDs or they want to sell books. Now, in the past, if you allowed them to use your property to sell books and they're not a nonprofit organization, or it's not considered a charitable activity, then you could lose your property tax exemption if you allow them to sell your books. Now, those can be done for up to 15 days. In a church situation, let's just say you have a church music director who wants to give lessons. If the church music director gives lessons, charge those directly to participants students who pay the director, you could lose your property tax exemption. Under the new law, you're allowed to do that up to 15 days. Now, if it's the church itself that is offering this and they're paying the music director not based on the number of lessons, but basically just on a flat fee type basis, then that kind of activity of providing lessons that further the exempt purpose of the church would not be something that would jeopardize your property tax exemption. Now, here's where it's a little bit different. Schools still must or can allow a third party to come on premises, teach courses, and charge students directly. So, for example, a music teacher could come on grounds for the school, charge the students for lessons individually, and as long as the requirements of the law are met under the school provisions, that is an allowable use that won't jeopardize your exemption and won't even use up any of your 15 days. So that's one of the differences, and there's several differences. If you want to allow an outside group to use say your gym as and if the use is a charitable type activity, say they're coordinating a food drive or some other charitable type activity, then the use can be unlimited number of days. But if it's just to, say, have a private event, a birthday party, an anniversary, that type of a thing, then you're allowed now up to 50 days for those types of uses. Question often comes up about when photo directories are taken for the church or taken for the school. And this third party comes in, they take the pictures for everybody for the photo directory, then they sell individual pictures. This was covered under an old ruling, and as long as the prior rules are followed, that allow this kind of use, then there's no problem with exemption. Until the Department of Revenue clarifies this, I would just still consider this, though, under your 15-day ruling. Let's see, another type of example. How much can the church or school charge for these non-exempt type activities? They're allowing somebody to come in, or say another nonprofit, how much can they charge? Basically, it is the cost of operating the facility. The Department of Revenue hasn't given any clear guidance on this, but they have said that if you do it similar to like the IRS reporting for rental income on a personal income tax return, if you use those types of costs that could be deductible there, then those should be allowable also in your setting. How about piano recitals? Was a question that came up. Those, again, if you're doing this and there's no charge involved, this will use up one of your 50 days. If there is a charge, then it would be a 15-day period. How about allowing a government to use like the state organization or federal organization to use your property? Well, again, that's going to fall under one of the 50 days. Now, a lot of people say, well, government, they're a nonprofit, aren't they? And they certainly aren't in it to make money. They're certainly spending money. So, but there are special rules for government organizations that they are required to use their only use property exempt if they own the property. So their use won't be allowed. Christmas tree sales, for example, again, this is a sale like a business, so it's a 15-day rule. You're allowed to do it for 15 days. There are also other rules that are still in effect, old rules that said if you had a fundraiser that didn't last more than 5 days, then it could fall under that rule, as long as at least 51% of the profits came to the church or your nonprofit organization. The use of use of facilities for a wedding. The 50-day or the 15-day rule could apply depending on how the arrangement is structured, where there's a ceremony. If there's a ceremony at the church, wedding ceremony, then right afterwards you have the wedding reception, then it's unlimited because that's considered a church use of the facilities. And that's one thing to be considered at church or a school use. If what you're doing is for a church purpose, then it doesn't fall under these limitations. There are several other like the holiday craft sales around Christmas time, where you might rent tables, vendors might donate back to the school or to the church 20% of the proceeds. Again, that would fall under the 15-day rule because you're allowing a business to use your facilities. There are a number of different charitable uses. I can't really go into them all, but hopefully that gives you a flavor for some of them. I would just be careful to screen your users, make sure that the users of your facilities are nonprofit, that they're conducting exempt activities, and if you're allowing someone to use the property, make sure they're not conducting other business activities which would use up, or other non-exempt activities which would use up your 15 days or your 50-day use. So hopefully this will give you some good overview of what the rules are, and if you have any questions, you can contact us. Thanks.